Matthew Quinn was born in Ireland in 1821, schooled in Dublin, and at 16 he went to Rome to begin studies for the priesthood. He was ordained in Rome in 1845. He first joined with a mission to India, and through his years there demonstrated the zeal, discipline and administrative capacity he became recognised for. He returned to Ireland and taught with distinction in a diocesan seminary in Dublin. He was also involved in Catholic-related politics of the time. Pope Pius IX proclaimed Dr. Matthew Quinn first Bishop of Bathurst in a papal bull dated the 23rd of June 1865. On the 14th of November 1865, Dr. Matthew Quinn was consecrated Bishop of Bathurst by the Archbishop of Dublin. At the same ceremony, his cousin, Dr. Murray, was made Bishop of Maitland. The two went to Rome for some months of instruction, and on their return to Ireland, Bishop Quinn set about organising to bring out to Australia some Sisters of Mercy from County Cork. October 1866, on board Empress, saw the arrival in Sydney Harbour of Bishop Quinn and Bishop Murray, 9 priests and 24 religious women. When Bishop Quinn arrived in 1866, there were in the diocese 6 priests, 5 presbyteries, 10 churches and 6 schools, with a Catholic population of 13,000. Remarkably, in 1885, the year Bishop Quinn died, there were 28 priests, 15 presbyteries, 53 churches and chapels and 56 schools. Bishop Quinn oversaw the laying of foundation stones and the construction of 40 churches in his 20 years as bishop. These images capture some of these churches, many of which are still standing, though many others have been demolished or replaced with newer versions. The newly formed diocese covered a vast territory. It extended west to the known boundary of New South Wales, north to the Queensland border, and south to Wentworth on the Victorian border. Bishop Quinn continuously travelled to settlements throughout the established diocesan territory. From Wentworth, where he laid the foundation stone of the new church in 1871, to Burke on a same mission in the same year. Many churches begun in these early years did not survive. Others became part of school facilities when a new church was built. pastoral pursuits and gold and mineral discoveries brought the people out west. The type of church built reflected where the settlement was. Many were simple wooden or tin slab huts, while others were built of local stone or bricks. As well as these parishes and mission stations, which are still part of the Bathurst Diocese, the vastness of the diocese in 1866 offered great challenges. It included Forbes, which was visited as early as 1862 by Archbishop Holding. Burke in 1870 was established, Wentworth 1871, Cobar 1877, Parkes 1879 and Wilcannia in 1884. And who were the priests who went on horseback across almost half the state of New South Wales to bring religious solace to their Catholic people? And who were the congregations of all these churches? And how many children were at all those schools? While the number of churches that Bishop Quinn saw open throughout his new diocese between 1865 and 1885 was an impressive 40 plus, it is in providing schools for the education of the children of his Catholic flock that his record is also staggering. For Bishop Quinn, his provision of schools and teachers and a detailed curriculum went hand in hand with an involvement in the wider political arguments of the day for independence of Catholic education in Australia. The 6 Catholic denominational schools in 1865 in the Bathurst Diocesan area, which covered most of the western half of the state of New South Wales, were at Sofala, Mudgee, Wellington and Orange, with 2 in Bathurst. Before Bishop Quinn and the 7 Sisters of Mercy arrived in Bathurst, St Michael's Church on the corner of George and Keppel Streets was being used as a school as well as a church. It was demolished in mid-1860s to make way for a denominational or boys' school. That is where, in spare rooms, the sisters began teaching until St Mary's College was ready for use in 1869. Sister Mary Ignatius Croke was the first superior of the Immaculate Conception Mercy Community in Bathurst, and Mother Mary Stanislaus Duffy and Mother Mary Gertrude Shea had come to Australia with Bishop Quinn in 1866. Carcoar and Mudgee were established in the next few years, followed by St Joseph's at Orange, 1878, St Patrick's Dubbo, 1880, Forbes, 1881, and Wellington, 1883. By 1885, the year of Bishop Quinn's death, 89 Sisters of Mercy were teaching 1,686 pupils in 24 schools across the diocese. It was in that same building used by the Mercy Sisters in their first few years that St Stanislaus College began. It operated as a high school on the corner of Keppel and George Streets, along with accommodation for boarders until 1873, when it was moved to its present site. An ecclesiastical seminary began in the building on the corner of George and Keppel Streets in 1876, 14 years before St Patrick's College in Manly. Several young Irish students arrived as the nucleus of this seminary. They became a familiar sight on the streets of Bathurst in their soutane and soprana, but after 18 months the seminarians moved to an enlarged St Stanislaus, but the seminary kept its original name of St Charles. A girls' orphanage was founded in Bathurst, adjacent to St Mary's School, and it was transferred in 1915 to Holmhurst after that property was acquired by the Sisters of Mercy. The first Sisters of St Joseph lived in a slab hut at the Vale in 1872, and they moved into a new convent building shortly after. This order was founded in Penola, South Australia, and Bishop Quinn had visited the community, which was under the guidance of Sister Mary MacKillop, later to be canonised, and asked for help with his schooling needs. There was a difference of opinion between Sister MacKillop and Bishop Quinn, which resulted in a number of the sisters returning to South Australia. However, the Sisters of St Joseph rapidly spread throughout the diocese, and within the next few years they were at Wattle Flat, German Hill, Borenore, Trunkie and Evans Plains. By 1885 there were at least 22 convents with 106 Sisters of St Joseph in the diocese. They taught 1,657 pupils in 23 schools. Newly ordained in 1864, Joseph Patrick Byrne had immediately offered to accompany Dr. Quinn to Australia, and had been the Vicar General of the new diocese for a number of years before Bishop Quinn died. He was also President of St Stanislaus College and St Charles Seminary. Through the years of his Vicar General service, he did much of the episcopal work he continued to do for his 15 years as bishop, and during 1884 he had run the see for the 8 months Bishop Quinn was overseas. Bishop Joseph Byrne received the apostolic letter from Rome appointing him the second Bishop of Bathurst in June 1885. He was consecrated on the 9th of August the same year. He was involved from as early as 1883 and right through his years as bishop in professions of new Sisters of Mercy and St Joseph. Brigidine nuns were welcomed to Coonamble in 1883, and before he died, Bishop Quinn had invited the Patrician brothers to come to Bathurst and teach the boys of the town. 5 brothers of St Patrick came in the first year of Bishop Byrne's episcopacy. St Patrick's Monastery, still standing as the present Chancery Office in Bathurst, had its foundation stone laid January 1886 by Bishop Byrne. while in Bathurst, Bishop Byrne spent a lot of time with money concerns and land matters for church buildings and cemeteries, as well as pursuing many bank negotiations. Travelling throughout the breadth of the diocese was constant and exhausting. It appears Bishop Byrne was an impressive orator, and as Vicar General he gave a mission at Cobar as early as September 1883. Here he opened a new church with great success, with £850 being subscribed. And 3 years later he was there again and received this illuminated address from the grateful Cobar faithful. The following places were visited by the bishop for confirmation and for opening or blessing a church, a school, a convent or a presbytery. As well as the places shown here, whether original or new buildings, there were the following that Bishop Byrne mentioned in his diary as having visited: Mudgee, Stony Creek, Rylstone, Porter's Retreat, Avoca, where he held a 3-day mission in a tent, Forbes, Wellington, Lincoln, Teapot Swamp, Cargo, Evans Plains, Eugara, Parks, Condobolin, Kidal, Cumnock, Coolmar, Blaney, Safala, Lime Kilns, Wattle Flat. This year saw the formation of the new Diocese of Wilcannia, which reduced the geographic boundaries of Bathurst considerably. Bishop Byrne made what could be called an odyssey to congratulate the new Bishop of Wilcannia. Over a number of days, Father Long drove the bishop to Swan Hill, 66 miles from Balranald. There the bishop took a coach to Kerrang, 40 miles from where he took the train direct to Melbourne, which he reached the same night at 11 p.m. The following morning he left Melbourne by the 6:30 a.m. train from Albury. Arriving at Albury at 2 o'clock, he dined with and congratulated the first Bishop of Wilcannia, Dr. Dunn, spent the evening with him and left at 11 p.m. for Sydney, where he arrived the following morning. Some 3 weeks later, he wrote a full statement to Dr. Dunn of the church matters in the Bathurst portion of Wilcannia Diocese: churches, schools, convents, priests, nuns, debts, when and where confirmation was held, where visitations and confirmation were expected. A book of historic photographs was given by the children of St Matthew's in Mudgee to the bishop in January 1890, showing the Lane Cove River, Manly Pier, Bathurst, and the River Murray. Parish and diocesan life continued. John Marr gave £100 towards the passage of the first 8 Vincentian priests that came to Bathurst to take charge of Stannies. Bishop Byrne died at 57 years of age after 34 years in Australia, and apart from 3 years at Maitland, all was spent in the Bathurst Diocese.